Good morning, comrades. It is Wednesday. It is also St. Patrick's Day. Hi, we should be, instead of Mega Man music, we should be doing Irish, whatever those songs are. Anyway, what's going on, folks? It is a beautiful day. By beautiful, I mean gray, which is like my least favorite color of day. But it seems like it's always gray in the morning now with this daylight savings time. I'm just gonna complain about it every day now, at least until it's like bright enough to be actually daytime in the morning. I don't know. I like the sun. There's some pretty heavy news to hit on today. We're going to talk a little bit about the shootings in the Metro Atlanta spas, which is just like absolutely horrible. They had a white supremacist who went and murdered about 8 people in several different spas, Asian American spas, in Atlanta just yesterday. I want to talk a little bit about Biden's role in the filibuster. And then maybe we can have a little fun towards the end. There is a campaign that retired NFL quarterback. Maybe won't even do that, but I can't help myself in terms of like wanting to talk about the never-ending saga of the Six Flags that's been here in New Orleans since I was basically like, I guess I was in middle school or high school when I came up there, and it's been closed ever since Hurricane Katrina. So maybe we could talk about that a little bit. And stuff like that. But first I want to check in how everybody's doing today. We got G Wolf. Time to make kofefe. I didn't even make my kofefe yet today. I might need to take a little break partway through the show. I got some lighting in the studio now. It's a little bit more ambiance, I guess you could say. It looks a little bit less like an office and a little bit more like a stream. I don't know. Tell me what y'all think of that. Anyway, let's get us started with the terrible news. So, eight killed in shooting in 3 Metro Atlanta spas. Police have 1 suspect in custody. So video evidence. This is from. Okay, it's from early this morning. Some video evidence suggests that it looks bright. What do you mean? What looks bright? Oh, the setting. Okay. So in Atlanta, just last night rather, or yesterday, a white supremacist went through 3 different Atlanta spas and murdered a total of 8 people amongst them. There's a suspect in custody. Let's watch this video. Okay. Yeah, it is a little bit bright. Maybe I should turn it down. We'll see. All right.
Ryan, what is the latest?
Oh, that's a great question there, Chris. And that's what investigators are working to find out right now. I can tell you this, though. One of the reasons why we haven't found out the race and the ages of one of those first shooting scenes is they haven't told all the family members yet. the folks who have died, the loved ones have been lost. I mean, it's a tough day, especially when investigators are having to make those phone calls. I'll step out of the way here and you can look at the active crime scene that's going on. We do have the information, though, the Cherokee County Sheriff's Department telling us that they have captured a suspect. They believe Robert Aaron Long, 21 of Woodstock, was involved in that first shooting scene. And that's who investigators were looking for. We do know that 4 people are dead at that scene. And then this is the scene in Atlanta where there are 2 separate shooting scenes. You have the Gold Spa, then you have the spa across the street over there. 3 women were shot in one location. Another woman was shot at another location. We do know the suspect was caught in Chris County, which is about 2 hours away from here. There was a small vehicle pursuit, I'm being told by some of sources that we've been able to talk to, and they were able to capture him. Not sure if they've been able to speak with him at all to figure out what a motive is. We've also have not been able to connect him for sure to this scene at all just yet. But I can tell you that law enforcement in the metro Atlanta area was working with the theory that they were looking for that man who was 21 of Woodstock. They were looking for that 4-door Hyundai Tucson, which was black in color and had some damage to the side. And so obviously with these different sites here, there was a lot of people who were concerned about the targets of this. And of course, as police got that investigation going, they say it was surveillance video that sort of pointed them in the direction of who the suspect was. And this happened for several hours. Chris, Cherokee County is about a 47-minute drive from where I'm standing right now. And then if you think about it, you're talking about 2 hours away from here is where this suspect was captured. So I'm not sure if there was any sort of online threats made before this happened, but it's obviously something
Look at
that
that map.
investigators are going.
Look at where, I mean, like that's just across town. You know, you have one shooting in I mean, I'm not exactly totally familiar with Atlanta. I'd have to talk. We have these 2 that are right close by one another: Gold Massage and Aromatherapy Spa, and then one all the way out in Asian Massage, which is like seemingly you would need to take the interstate to get there. So this is like just somebody like sloppily looking at a map to go just decide to murder some folks. Good morning, Ginny 20.
Now, where I'm standing is near Buckhead. This is pretty much Buckhead, and this whole area, this street right here, would be busy normally.
Enough of this. So yeah. So let me just read from the article. Video evidence suggests that it is extremely likely that the same person was responsible for 3 deadly shootings at massage parlors in Metro Atlanta area. Police said on Tuesday. 8 people were killed and 1 person was wounded in the attacks. 2 of the shootings were at spas across the street from each other in the northeast Atlanta, and the other happened about 30 miles away in Cherokee County to the northwest of the city. Wow. So, like, he drove an extra 30 miles away to go shoot up a different spa. Video footage from our video integration center places the Cherokee County suspect's vehicle in the area around the time of our Piedmont Road shootings, the Atlanta Police Chief, the department said in a news release. That, along with video evidence viewed by investigators, suggests it's extremely likely that our suspect is the same as Cherokee County's, who is in custody. Because of this, an investigator from APD is in Cherokee County, and we are working closely with them to confirm with certainty our cases are related. So essentially, yeah, this one guy drove to 3 different spots and just shot him up, it seems like. Officials in each jurisdiction said there was no immediate indications of a motive. The suspect in Cherokee County shootings was taken into custody in Crisp County, about 150 miles south of Atlanta, around 8:30 p.m., about 3.5 hours after the killing. Cherokee County Sheriff's Office identified him as Robert Aaron Long, 21. This kid is 21 years old, of Woodstock. In a video on the Crisp County Sheriff's Department, this is last night. This happened last night. In a video on the Crisp County Sheriff Department's Facebook page, Sheriff Frank Reynolds said that the agency and the Highway Patrol were alerted Long was headed their way. After his vehicle was spotted, a chase ensued on Interstate 75, and a state trooper performed a maneuver that sent the SUV out of control. So basically, they drove him off the road after a long car chase. I had no idea any of this was happening last night, by the way. The suspect was taken into custody without incident and transported to Crisp County. So 5 shot in the suburb. Oh my God. So this is like the barest of facts from here. The Atlanta police said that they responded to a robbery call at the Gold Massage Spa on Piedmont Road in Atlanta and found 3 people dead. While there, police received another call of shots fired directly across the street at the aromatherapy spa, where they found 1 person dead. Atlanta Police Chief Rodney Bryant said, "The 4 victims were female and appeared to be Asian," Bryant said, adding, adding it was too early to say what their connection was to the spas. Authority in Atlanta's Zone 2 said that they were increasing patrols around similar businesses. In New York, members of the police department's Critical Response Command deployed to Asian communities throughout the city in response to the shootings, a spokesman for the NYPD told CNN. The FBI is assisting law enforcement with shooting investigations, according to FBI spokesman Robert Rouse. So this is really crazy. I mean, like, we've become, I don't know, maybe I don't want to speak for everybody, but I've become like extremely numb to shootings, like, and just in America, it's just like one of the things that happens in America all the time. But like this one is particularly sort of terrifying because it's specifically targeting like Asian owned businesses. And there has been like really badly spiking anti like Asian sentiment sort of generally due to a lot of the rhetoric that's been thrown around about COVID, when they call it things like the China virus and things like that. Mark Allen Derry, who's our friend of our show, he's the host of Noise Filter. You can watch that on YouTube. You can also listen to that on WHIV LP in New Orleans, where you can also listen to this show on Tuesday mornings at 8. He has a term for that, like something like I can't remember what it is, but essentially like when you tie the Spanish flu, for example, like if you call a disease the Spanish flu, you're going to sort of necessarily trigger some kind of like anti-Spanish sentiments based off of how you like frame the virus, because it's almost like because the disease was discovered in Spain, it's it's the fault of the Spanish people or whatever that's the case. And similarly for COVID, when they call the COVID-19 the China virus, people are going to start to associate that group of people, you know Chinese and more broadly Asian, because a lot of Americans can't tell the difference, especially racist Americans can't tell the difference, um, are going to start targeting Asian people sort of broadly. So this, in my view, is, I mean, maybe I'm taking a little walk here, but it's a direct sort of result of that kind of of that kind of xenophobia based around um, the way that we frame these diseases. Maybe it's not, maybe I'm wrong, but it really sort of seems like that's at least in part the case. Um, I don't know. It really is. It feels like the El Paso shooting, just a little more local. Which shooting in El Paso are you talking about? Is that the one where well, I'm not. I don't want to. Yeah, Spanish flu definitely started in the U.S. I believe it was originally discovered in Kansas, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Spain was the first to report it. That's 100% true, but nobody thinks of it that way, and that's really unfortunate too. I want to look a little bit more into this. 'Cause there's a couple of really good pieces I've seen on here. He did 8 people killed. I mean, I can we'll follow up with this story, but like my take sort of remains the same on this, that this is necessarily like when Donald Trump, the president of the United States, goes out and calls COVID the China something like 3 days ago. He put out that like press release or whatever you want to call it with his heading, and had it released on Twitter, like basically in parents saying, COVID-19, also known as the China virus. Like Trump has been more. Uh, uh, he's been an animator of this stuff, like just probably more than anybody in the world. Because I mean, when the president of the United States or the former president of the United States or whatever signals and legitimizes these kinds of you know BS BS framings, then people are going to pick that up. They'll follow that lead. So yeah, and now 8 people are dead because of that. Another person is wounded, and this white supremacist whose name I don't want to repeat. He's 21 years old and he's going to jail. I don't like beating on this part particularly strongly either, because I don't think that police should be doing violence to even people who are definitely guilty of crimes or whatever. But like, I can't help but think about situations where people like George Floyd, or if you want to go back to Laquan McDonald and all these kids that are black, who have done nothing wrong, or people that are black. Not George Floyd was an adult, but Alton Sterling and Baton Rouge, etc. They end up being shot and killed, having done very little. And this guy who literally murdered 8 people and tried to escape, in a car chase, essentially, gets taken in a lot. Well, if you remember Dylan Roof, and again, I'm not saying that he definitely should have been shot or killed, or definitely not. I'm not suggesting that. It's just that it's very, very frustrating to see when. Am I back? All right. It's very, very like sort of telling to see when these things happen. That's very often the case, where these shooters get taken in alive, and people who are entirely innocent are often murdered by police. And it's just, I don't know, it's just sad, and it's not fair. And I don't know. But that's just how it is, I guess. Horrible news. It's just, I don't know. So anyway, how's everybody doing this morning? Sorry to like start it off with a huge bummer. This kind of stuff is not easy to read about and report on for me, and I'm sure it's not great to listen to either. Yeah. I could move on. Yeah, let's move on. I wanted to talk about this, which is actually a little bit exciting. It's good news ish. Yeah. It's almost like the whole system is broken. I mean, not only is it broken, like it's like rapidly sort of breaking down and falling apart. And there are components of that are, there's opportunity in the system breaking down, I suppose, because there's, I mean, a lot of ways, if the gravity of the whole thing, it was, yeah, you were okay 20 minutes ago, all your homies hit the cups, my homies hit the cups too. But like the system is irredeemable, and it's falling apart, and something needs to be done about it. I don't know. I'm gonna go grab coffee real quick. I'll be right back. Yeah, you've grown numb to the. You saw the story on Reddit and didn't read because you knew we'd hear about it more today. Yeah, I know. It's like, I was thinking while I was getting my coffee, like and we'll talk about some of this stuff later, but like the way that a lot of these, like these right wing people on like Fox News and Ben Shapiro and all these other like Tucker Carlson and all these other freaks, the way they talk about like the problems in America that are like, the WAP video with Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion and all that stuff at the Grammys. And the thing that they're worried about is that when you literally have people shooting up, parts like at businesses in Atlanta, like spas or whatever. Like it shows where their priorities are at. They're fine with this, but they're pissed about, women dancing on stage in a way that gets them like horny or whatever. You've grown numb to shootings in the US. Yeah. It's just a normal thing. Like I'm a teacher and like we've totally normalized the idea that your school, like somebody can show up in your school with a gun and shoot you up, and you just need to be prepared for that. Like there's training videos and like entire meetings that are around this sort of like perceived inevitability that the shooting, like the idea that shootings um are just like normalized in America is shocking. But then also in addition to that, the the specific sort of targeting of Asian American like businesses in this particular case is like double alarming. Like it stands out amongst all of the other shootings. It's horrible. All right, let's talk about Joe Biden, who also usually sucks, but here's something that might be good. I don't know. Joe Biden supports changes to the filibuster, returning it to, quote, what it used to be. Now, the what it used to be part is very funny to me because when people talk about what the filibuster used to be, they have this sort of very specific idea in mind of like Mr. Smith goes to Washington, him reading a filibuster out and, talking for hours until he collapses in the floor of the Senate. And, that changes the minds of everybody and, it gathers public support. And it's very, very sort of like romantic. But really what the filibuster is at this point is, any senator can just call, Mitch McConnell or whatever and say, hey, I'm filibustering this. I don't want it to go through. We don't have to vote on it. They would need 60 votes to get it go. And I'm going fishing. Something like that. That's what a filibuster does. You could just block anything. And, that's ridiculous. What the filibuster really has a history of is being a roadblock to progress and to equality in the U.S. It was used very, very, uh, very, very liberally, I guess you could say, to stop some of the most, the best parts of the New Deal that would have broadened its scope to other people. So essentially, one of the things that happened is turtle. The New Deal was sort of like cut up in a lot of ways, so that certain sectors of work, which were inhabited or occupied by people, would do like homework and home uh, like childcare and things like that in people's homes. That was sort of carved out in some of the labor parts of the New Deal. Yeah, definitely get rid of the Senate. The Senate is one of the least democratic parts of of our government, considering that every state from Montana and Wyoming and Alaska get 2 senators each, and New York and California get 2 senators each. It's sort of like because of the giant disparity in population, it really does promote land over human beings for sure. Anyway, yeah, it was used to chop up parts of the New Deal. It was used to block parts of the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Act before it took it. It makes getting anything through the Senate It basically makes the Senate a graveyard for like good policies, or at least it makes anything that's good that can actually help people. It makes it a lot more difficult for those to get implemented. So Biden wants to support changes to the filibuster, returning into quote what it used to be. Did he mean like what it used to be when he supported busing, or I mean when he I'm sorry, when he opposed busing? He called it forced busing. Busing is good. Um, President Biden on Tuesday told it's not obviously it's not a perfect, but you know what I mean. President Biden on Tuesday told ABC News that he supports reforming the filibuster, calling on the chamber to readapt its old standard of requiring dissenting members to verbally speak on the floor to delay action on a bill. Quote, I don't think you know what I don't think you know I don't think that you have to eliminate the filibuster. You have to do it what it used to be when I first got to the Senate back in the old days, Biden said in an interview with ABC News' George Stephanopoulos. You had to stand up and command the floor. You had to keep talking. Filibustering is the controversial Senate practice designed to block action on a bill, first coming into existence as a means to preserve slavery in the United States. Republicans in recent years have effectively weaponized the practice, and some Democrats, newly and narrowly empowered in the Senate, have called to reform the procedure or to do away with it altogether. Quote Biden again. It's getting to the point where, you know the thing, man. It's the point where, democracy is having a hard time functioning, Biden said in an ABC interview. You wish you could learn something about the US that isn't stupid. Sorry, guys. Jenny, there isn't any part of the US that isn't stupid. Sorry. Biden's comments contradict what the White House said earlier in the day. Asked about the filibuster on Air Force One, Press Secretary Jen Psaki said, I would say the president's preference, as you alluded to, is not to make changes. He is also open to hearing ideas, and those discussions will happen in Congress. This is, of course, a Senate rule. It's not a law, and that he would change or sign into law. It's a Senate rule. So it looks like Jen Psaki and Joe Biden are off message from one another. Earlier Tuesday, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell delivered a searing warning on the Senate floor against changing or This part's very funny to me, by the way. He delivered a searing warning on the Senate floor against changing or eliminating the filibuster's rules. Those advocating for changes, he said, are, quote, arguing for a radically less stable and less consensus-driven system of government. So that's really funny because, like, Mitch McConnell does whatever he wants. He when he was this Senate Majority Leader, he basically just did whatever he wanted. He was doing terrible things, left, right, center, appointing judges, all these terrible things, and passing tax cuts for the rich. And now all of a sudden he's like, bad things are going to happen if you reform this filibuster, which is just sort of like, come on now, you're going to start doing bad things now. Of course, Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema have said that they oppose ending the filibuster. Manchin said Tuesday, everybody hates Joe Manchin. Manchin said Sunday that he's open to changing it to make it more, quote, painful to wield. Which is a move by him. He was like not for changing it at all. Now he is, so that's good. He told reporters Tuesday that despite McConnell's warning, he was, quote, just in the same place I've always been on the filibuster. So it's one of the important things is like things like the PRO Act. The PRO Act is one of the most sort of transformative legislation. We talk a lot about the PRO Act, and if you're tired of the PRO Act, I've got some bad news for you folks, because I got more people coming on to talk about the PRO Act this week. But anyway, it's going to be one of the most transformative pieces of legislation to pass, to be implemented in the U.S. Things that would make scabs illegal, force bosses to negotiate for a first contract. It would block the misclassification of workers and give huge penalties for that, etc. There's so many really good things. Um, but that's not going to happen because in the Senate, like it's already passed the House of Representatives. It's not going to pass the Senate because even though the Democrats have, the 50 plus the tiebreaker majority, it's not gonna get through because of this filibuster, and they would need 10 Republicans to come on board to support it. Um, you need to end that. You need to end that filibuster because without without the filibuster getting destroyed or at least changed significantly, you're not going to get the PRO Act. And the U.S. labor system, the U.S. labor movement is going to be under attack and not reformed in the way that it needs to be. So we need to end the filibuster. All my homies hate the filibuster. And y'all, we're shit talking America in chat. If you live here, all you can do is grab some popcorn and watch the show. McConnell threatens to grind the Senate to a halt if Dems don't let them keep power to grind the Senate to a halt. Where'd you see that headline? That's very funny. I'm not going to lie. There was a lot of popcorn before Trump. Yeah. I mean, like, there's always some kind of sideshow. And if you want to grab some popcorn, let's talk about some popcorn shit. So, Andrew's going to go nuts with this, with a filibuster. Hell yeah. So here's another story so a lot of people have been extremely concerned about the very important things in America. Okay. The most important thing, the most terrifying, most destructive thing to our society right now is, of course, Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion doing the WAP dance at the Grammys, obviously. So here is Candace Owens to put her talking. First off, look at the look on Tucker Carlson's face. Look at it now. I almost think that this is like an image of him that was just pasted on the Zoom call so we can like go to the bathroom or play video games or something. Anyway, watch this.
Any words about it. They call this great. They say this is fabulous, that this is the stuff that children should be aspiring towards. So at the same time, Tucker, that we have kids that are not learning hard academics anymore in school, right? Forget about mathematics and science. You can trust the science and trust Dr. Fauci, but you have these kids learning about critical race theory. They're learning that they should aspire to people like Cardi
Hold on
B.
a second. So let's get started here. So she's all over the place. Let's just kind of like try and keep track of what she's doing right here.
Any words about it. They call this great. They say this is fabulous, that this is the stuff that children should be aspiring towards. So at the same
They're saying that this is what children should be aspiring towards, dancing and singing a song at the Grammys. Okay.
Same time, Tucker, that we have kids that are not learning hard academics anymore in school, right? Forget about mathematics and science. You can trust the science.
Kids aren't learning mathematics and science in school. Okay.
And trust Dr. Fauci, but you have
trust Dr. Fauci. That's bad. Trust a doctor who is a doctor. Okay.
About critical race theory.
Oh no, they're learning about critical race theory. I mean, like I have my critiques of like the ideas of critical race theory or whatever, but like the idea that people might be exposed to that in school, not particularly terrifying to me.
Learning that they should aspire to people like Cardi B. That you
and
see that
I can't actually. That is part of the curriculum. It's a part of the social studies curriculum that you have at least 1 week of lessons per year where you have to teach children how to aspire to be like Cardi B. That's true. That is true.
that fundamentally we are seeing the destruction of American values, American
Now
principles.
we're talking about the destruction of America and American values. Hell yeah, this is good shit.
And it's terrifying. I think parents should be terrified that this is the direction that our society is headed towards. And again, we are weakening America. That's really what we should be talking about. This is a weakening of American society. We are setting the stage, and it feels.
Now remember, the weakening of American society is being not caused by attacks on American workers by corporations. It's not being it's not the fact that some white supremacist decided to shoot up 3 different Asian spas in Atlanta. It's not that. It's not anything like that. It's not the fact that there's children at the border being, rounded up and thrown in cages. That's not a sign of a corrosion in the end of an empire. But two women dancing on the Grammy stage to a song that's got sex words in it. That's the end of an empire. That's what that is.
We're talking about. This is a weakening of American society. We are setting the stage, and it feels like we are.
And look at Carlson's face. It's just like he looks completely like blown away. Like he's just completely gobsmacked by the bullshit pouring out of Candace Owens' mouth.
Corrosion. Like we are about to see the end of an empire. America cannot survive. It cannot be sustained under these sorts of values and principles. Any word.
Incredible. Like America cannot be sustained under these sorts of values and principles. They said the same thing about metal in the 80s and video games in the 90s and 2000s. Yeah. So here's the sort of like the reality behind a lot of this, right? So when conservatives and right-wing people start to like lose in even the smallest way, like the fact that Joe Biden's the president is like an absolutely devastating loss to these people, even though that they fundamentally do agree that, actually, capitalism is good. Rich people and corporations deserve to essentially wield all the power in society, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact that it's like slightly tempered, just a little tiny bit, and we put a fig leaf over it, means that we're losing. And when we're losing, that means that we have to turn to the culture war, essentially. We needed to turn to Cardi B, and we need to talk about trans, people in sports, in women's sports. They're destroying women's sports, obviously. And if you remember back in the Obama administration, in places not just North Carolina, but that was the one that was most notable. They had those bathroom bills. They freak out about gay people. What they want to do is change the conversation so that they can get people who are more socially conservative that would otherwise not agree with them on their side. Because most working people don't have their economic interests in mind. Most working people need the money and the things that they need to survive. But if you take that off the table and you replace it with something that they might be scandalized by, then you're gonna essentially talk to them in terms that you're essentially creating culture by doing. This is the Breitbart thing. Like culture is downstream of politics kind of thing, where you just sort of like use the culture to create the politics as opposed to having any kind of material politics. They did the same thing in the 80s video games in the 90s. They also did it with like rap music, if you remember, with the Tipper Gore thing. I don't know if y'all remember that at all. They don't discuss anything. They just hit words like bingo or something. That's exactly right. They just like to they like to just say things. They just like to kind of have these dog whistle words that they use that people like. That's the word you say when you want people to get mad. The other thing that they talk about now is cancel culture. They just had an entire CPAC that where they talked about being canceled. America uncanceled was the theme of the CPAC. So yeah, y'all saw, well, just for yucks, just to bring back a memory here. Oh no, I didn't save it. Oh well. If you remember, Ben Shapiro had a freak out about this. Dave Rubin had a freak out about this. Like, it's almost like they get the same sheet of talking points to like freak out specifically about these things. Hey Antifa, how you doing? The right wing exists almost exclusively off dishonest canards. That's how they survive. That's how they exist, of course. And people like Candace Owens are just like literally like she's there to sort of like assume the identity space of a black woman. and say, I am providing this critique as a Black woman. And essentially like being an iconoclast is sort of the point. It's kind of like when I know a lot of people in here watch Andrea's show yesterday. Somebody like Blair White, who does the same thing for as a trans woman, and it's really really like hard to watch, honestly, because at the end of the day, people like them have to like look at themselves in the mirror and put their head on the pillow at night, and I don't know. I guess the money must be worth it. Ugh. Just to kind of like keep on a different track. I haven't seen this video yet, but I wanted to jump into it because this one seems. So this is Steven Crowder talking about, and I'm gonna have to look up the policy here. So here's Steven Crowder, another one of these, right-wing shock jock types.
I don't know where you find this many farmers of color, but they did. And 5.2 billion are being allocated exclusively for colored farmers. Farmers of color, roll the tape.
We begin today's show looking at a major provision in President Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill that aims to address decades of discrimination against Black, Hispanic, Native American, and Asian American farmers who've historically been excluded from government agricultural programs. The American Rescue Plan sets aside $10.4 billion for agriculture support and allocates about half the funds to farmers of color who are, quote, subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice because of their identity as members of.
So what he's mad about is the fact that America has a history of racism and that these people have to have to level the playing field. They have to have this extra money that goes to them, right? It doesn't have to do with them being the problem by needing this playing field leveled, right? I'm sure that's what this is.
Of a group, unquote. The U.S. Commission on Civil Rights confirmed as long ago as 1965, the U.S. Department of Agriculture discriminated against Black farmers, but little was done to address the problem.
100 years ago?
Yeah, most happy about the new policy, these people. So, yeah.
What the hell? What the
Plow, man!
I'm gonna plant that corn.
Go get a John Deere. Barack Obama, mother, I'm the president of plowing that head. You.
I thought the last thing they would want to do is be farmers. Wasn't that a big problem for hundreds of years?
Yeah.
Isn't that why
this is actually jaw-dropping.
Arsenio Hall called himself the urban man's Johnny Carson?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why are you bringing up Arsenio Hall?
People lining up out in the middle of cornfield, Iowa for new dunks?
How would you prove this, by the way? Like, how would you prove that you've been discriminated
You don't
against?
have to. You just
Well, I didn't get that.
All right, I can't watch any more of this. So apparently that there's, because I'm looking here, and Lindsey Graham also made racist comments about this, and so the idea that there has been a harm, there has been discrimination in the system, and that it's been sort of attempted to be probably imperfectly rectified by as a part of the COVID relief bill, is something that is bad. That will only piss racist off, I suppose. But let's see here. John Boyd, for this video, let's see.
John Boyd Jr., the president of the National Black Farmers Association, called on Senator Lindsey Graham to apologize for comments he made recently, taking aim at a provision in the $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief bill that seeks to help socially disadvantaged Black farmers and farmers of color. During an appearance on MSNBC's quote,
and be clear, this is to like help people to produce food in the farm system.
Politics Nation with Al Sharpton. On Sunday, Boyd criticized Graham for comments balking at the provision's inclusion in the coronavirus relief bill, despite, in Boyd's words, having, quote, never once used his megaphone to speak out against the discrimination Black farmers have long faced.
Okay. So, I mean, like, this is just like, I hate to just be the one that just calls racism on these sorts of things. I mean, like, obviously, Steven Crowder, I'm actually shocked by how bad that was. But I mean, seriously, like, the idea that this is a bad thing I mean, it is pretty telling. I mean, if you're trying to like level the playing field because this group of Black farmers says that they have a particular grievance based on the hair-raisingly racist history of the United States, then you know you have a problem with that. I mean, you're just denying history and you're denying reality. And plus, it's like it was like $1.5 billion of $1.9 trillion bill. I mean, that's like 1%, less than 1%. I know I'm doing math live on the air, which is always a mistake, but you know how that goes. Ooh, boy. What a day. Oh, we're still talking about Candace Owens in the chat. Even going back to feudal times, the right simply can't be organic and must subordinate mouthpiece shills to push anti-egalitarian agitprop. Yeah. Candace Owens is daft, just like all of the other identity traders are the worst. Those who would shill for white supremacy. Yeah. I mean, she literally does that. That's literally her entire career right now. She just got a show. And that might be why she's like going out like this right now too. She just got a brand new show on the Blaze. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's on the Daily Wire. Let me find it. Because Cardi B was tweeting about this. By the way, Cardi B rules. She's a Bernie bro. She is one of the cool ones. You know, even if you don't like her music or whatever, like that's cool. But like she's definitely good and cool. I don't know how there's a debate about this. And this one's yeah, there it is. She's trying to promote her show. Candace Owens is trying to promote her show, and Cardi B says, "I'm not your hype man. I'm not. I'm not your hype man. I'm your mother. You look for me when you need help on your career, not the other way around. You need me. I don't need you. Now I'd say thank you." Oh my god, I cannot believe it. Like I don't know. This is I don't know. Wild times. Wild times in America. Steven Crowder is a real piece of garbage, and you don't see how many of his photos are still videos are still monetized, but they're because Google. You know, did you see the video that he did last week? Or I think he was like release it as like an old video, but it was like him like dressed as a woman going and working out, and essentially being like he went to like Planet Fitness or whatever, and it ended up with him getting banned from Planet Fitness forever for being like a weird creep. They're proto-Rhodesians, and unfortunately, this is radicalized hierarchy worse than Rhodesia. Well, hopefully, it doesn't end up like that. Channel 4 in the UK interviewed a black farmer who said he didn't receive help from the government, and he doesn't know a single black farmer who did last year. Yeah. I mean, another part of that, too, is that they're like industrial farming is like the primary way that farming is sort of done in the U.S. And if this, if this approach gets us away from the industrial farming and has more of a I mean, like the idea of it being industrial isn't necessarily a bad thing, but the fact that it freezes people out is, and having a bit more of an egalitarian transition, and part of the corporate industrial farming problem is also the fact that it's so like closely held and closely owned by so few people. So like a few groups of people own, or a few corporations own like tons of land, um, and like the rest of the work ends up basically getting contracted out. It's a little futile, actually, when you think about it. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. You can watch us every day at 8 a.m. Central Time, 9 Eastern Time. I don't know who uses Eastern Time these days. You know, I'm here for abolishing not only daylight savings time, but also abolishing all other time zones other than Central Time, which is the only one that matters. Central Time supremacy, baby. Um, but yeah, the more you look into farming, the worse it gets. I mean, have you ever looked, G Wolf, at like, I've seen some, like, I can't watch the like documentaries on factory farming. But holy crap, they're just absolutely horrifying how disgusting these things are. Agriculture and farming is both. And then there's also like, it's so bad in the US that they have put out, they've made laws essentially that if you record like video of bad practices, horrible practices, at either factory farms or livestock, um, I guess that's just also a farm. I'm not exactly sure. But essentially, you can be arrested for spying. They're called ag gag bills, and it's really, really shocking the fact that like these these companies, these corporations are able to, this entire industry, really, it's not just individual corporations, they're able to influence policy, the fact that if you can't even report on them without being considered a spy. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, that's going to be it for us today. I'm going to go ahead and send you over to Andrea's show above it all. There is the link. Thanks for watching, everybody. You can also support us at patreon.com/Good Morning Comrade. Happy St. Patrick's Day, I guess. Yes, you're right. It does come down to a few companies having all the power. All right. Bye-bye.